So that's how they're growing so fast.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. I will start the live stream here in just a second. Please make sure to like the video, share it. I'll start it here probably about a minute or so. All right, hopefully everybody is good. Good morning. Let me edit this real quick. All right. Everybody can hear me, see the screen clearly. Just want to get a 5x5 on that. Is ICT really live streaming? That's how much I don't keep up to date. I generally don't even know. But I appreciate everybody that is tuning in here rather than there. That's all right. Again, I don't know why he's live streaming, but we will roll with it. Everything's good. Bro, please put a stream schedule. I stream every single day, so. Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I am personally going to be here. Okay, so if you were watching the weekly forecast from yesterday, you were looking at how I was describing. I was looking for potential lower prices today. Kind of the overall week and what we're looking for. We have a large week ahead of us in terms of volatility, in terms of news driver events. The template for the week is a little bit skewed in terms of like trading, the days that you can be trading, can't be trading. If you're more experienced, do what you're comfortable with. Because personally, I mean, I could trade every single day this week. I know myself very well. I could do it every day, which I'm going to be on here live streaming every day, but it doesn't mean you should be trading. And yes, I could be trading every single day, but that does not mean I'm going to get it right. With FOMC, NFP, it can be unpredictable. It can be lower probability. But for me, if I know myself very well, I'm at least able to control myself. As a younger student or a younger version of myself, if you're inside of those very wild conditions, I mean, it's hard to control yourself because there's going to be a lot of movement and you may not be able to contain yourself and you may want to be going long and short, and it's a lot of risk. So it's the reason why ICT says to stay out of it. Even the day before NFP can be a little bit harder to read in terms of technicals. So just to go over, if you weren't there yesterday for the weekly forecast, I live streamed it. So please go over to the live stream and you'll be able to see kind of the weekly forecast and how I break down the narrative and the bias and what we should be looking for overall. So this weekly fair value gap here, I'm going to be utilizing that as an inversion because we've closed above it. And I've been stating yesterday and even today now, I'm not looking to call a top in this market. There's no reason to do that. That goes for any conditions that you're in. Calling tops or bottoms, that's just an easy way to get yourself killed, to be honest, because you're going to keep trying to call tops when it really hasn't formed. So you need to wait for enough information to see that the top is forming, to see that it is obviously wanting to go lower. And to me, I don't see that. So I have to stick with the narrative that I'm looking for higher prices, and until I'm proven wrong, then I'll switch. But for now, only thing I'd be looking for this week is if we can expand lower to start off the week, dig into this fair value gap and potentially the inversion. So if you're ever wondering, how do I know how far it's going to dig into a fair value gap? Well, it depends on a few criterias, but if you have an inversion overlapping in the exact same area that a fair value gap is in, then it's probably going to reach into the inversion, like this instance here. It's probably going to reach into the inversion plus the fair value gap. So it depends on the criteria that you're looking at, but anytime I have an inversion coupled with a fair value gap, I'm looking at the inversion particularly, if it can dig into that plus the fair value gap to expand higher. You can hear, but it's low volume. How is everybody else? Can everybody else hear me fine? I just want to make sure that it's good. Good volume? All right, cool. You may have to turn it up. Let's go down into daily time frame. Thank you, everybody. I do appreciate it. So the daily time frame, as we were discussing last night, we've taken out that buy-side liquidity pool on the weekly daily time frame, which was here. So we printed all-time highs last week, as expected. Now, that doesn't mean just because you've taken out a buy-side liquidity pool that means that's the top. That's it. We're going to completely rally lower. No. You need enough information in order for you to make that decision. As I was just stating, I don't see a reason to particularly call a top in here. So what I'm predicting is, can I just get a retracement into that weekly fair value gap, into the daily, and if I can short into that, and then wait to see, does it want to displace higher? And if it does, then I'm going to continue with the narrative. If we start breaking down and price starts bleeding through, then of course I would be looking at the idea that that was the top. But for now, I'm not going to call that, nor do I think it is. This fair value gap in here on the daily time frame, where's that resting? Where's the dealing range from this low to that high there? So the discount is here, equilibrium. If we can short into this fair value gap in here and into the discount, then continue going higher, that's still being a part of narrative. You're knowing what narrative is doing, but you're just kind of on the counterpart of it, per se. So today, looking at the opportunities and what I should be doing, I'm going to be looking for lower prices. If I don't get that, then obviously I'm going to have to see what else is available. But for now, that's what I'm looking at, because that's still part of the narrative. If price needs to go lower first in order to go higher, then you're still being a part of the narrative. Even though I'm not longing or looking for longs, it's still a part of the overall narrative because it needs retracements, right? So as long as you know where you're at within the narrative, it's fine. The 4-hour time frame, as I was discussing yesterday, this discount fair value gap in here likely looks like we're going to reach into, taking out the buy side liquidity pool there. Rejection block, which is your highest up close candle. It's the one right there. And look at the wicks. Rejected, moved off lower. Bearish order block here. rejected going lower. So what is order flow doing? It's respecting bearish PD rays. So all I'm doing is I'm reading order flow, I'm reading what it's respecting, and I'm building a case. So to me, if we can reach into the sell side liquidity pool there and the fair value gap there, whether that's today or tomorrow or even Wednesday, we'll see. Particularly, I'd like that to happen before FOMC or NFP. So hopefully that gives you an idea as to what I'm looking for going into today. Same thing on the 1 hour, this 1 hour inefficiency here. That's what I'd be looking at. And if I don't get enough supporting evidence to make a case for that, if it just continues to press higher, then I don't do anything. I could, of course, switch my bias, but for now, that's really what I'm looking at. I don't see a reason to go long. There's nothing in here that would tell me to go long. Right, so that's a part of analysis. If you can only make one side of the case, then stick with that. Does that make sense to everybody, what we're looking at today and what we're going for? So we'd be looking at Friday's low, and we'd be looking at the sell side here. So those are our sell side objectives, and then what's the inefficiency below us? That 1 hour in here. So if I can have price trade into it, that would be great. And you'd just be looking for shorts that move into that area. And this is what you should be doing on your own analysis, and when you sit down with the charts, like, what am I looking at? What am I going for? You don't just slap it down on a 5 minute and 1 minute, and you say, all right, I'm at the open. Where's my fair value gap? No. You need to build a case. You need to build a framework, a narrative around the session. And then you go into the lower time frames, and then you find your entry pattern. That's the way you need to be doing it. You don't just jump into a 1 minute time frame and just find a fair value gap and go short. There's no logic there. Somebody already's on 1 minute breaker. It's like, we're right off the open, my friend. I'm not in a rush to do anything. It's a Monday on a high volatility news event driver week. We'll see what happens. We'll see what plays out. Particularly, I'm going to be waiting for the silver bullet, or at least up until that macro that plays out right before it. Think about everybody that's chasing this today. Everybody's all so eager to trade. It's a Monday morning right off the open. You have to think in terms of, I hate saying that, a retail mindset. What are they doing? What's their mindset like? What's a brand new trader coming into these conditions? What are they thinking? I want to press a button. I want to make money. But that's their mindset. So you have to be thinking in terms of that. I want to do the opposite of it, which means to sit still and do nothing. Thank you, Ozzy. Goes to the machine. That's funny. Awesome, man. I appreciate it. I mean, that's the intention here. I think a lot of you can fix your mistakes very easily, but it's having the right information and the right teacher to teach you things. Let me put on some music for myself here. If you guys can please like the video, I'd appreciate it very much. It's the only thing I ask. Just please like the video. Yeah, so as I discussed yesterday, if you weren't on the weekly forecast, I was looking at dollar index and looking at the idea that we're probably going to move higher this week. There's a lot of indications for that. So already, if dollar index is moving higher, what does that mean for index futures? That means we should be looking at lower prices. It's inversely correlated. So I can't fight that. I can't fight if I have contradicting ideas, which I don't right now, but I'm saying in the instance that I do, then I'd have to either sit still and do nothing, or I'd have to pick a side. But in this instance, dollar index is moving higher, and the idea, at least for today, is index futures, NQ, YM, ES would move off lower. So that's good trading conditions. That's what you want to see. So far, nothing's completely decoupled off the opening. I mean, YM's spiking up higher, ES a little bit, and then NQ's not so much. So just maybe give it a little bit time. I'm not trying to make any sudden movements. I think ES has a lot of sell side liquidity that's resting beneath price, and if it wants to move off lower, that's really good objectives in there. So on ES, particularly the 48.95, 48.73, those are two really good areas. But even though I have a overall bearish bias, and that's what I'm looking at today, I have to wait for that pattern to form. I have to wait for conditions to meet me in order for me to execute on an idea, right? Just to make note, we have orange, neon, or not orange, neon shaded line here. That's the current new week opening gap. This is last week's new week opening gap. This is Friday's new day opening gap and Thursday's new day opening gap. Only reason I have those on is because they were respected very well, and we may want to utilize them again. So you can see in here we are. Go down to like a 5-minute time frame. So currently, we're inside of this 15-minute inefficiency. To be honest, it's pretty sloppy opening. Sloppy price in general. I don't see anything in here that really meets my eye, personally. And this is where just waiting for the open and just waiting for time to do the work for you is going to be the best. Hucklehead, amazing. I mean, FEG, there's times where you'll be decoupled for a little period of time, especially in the morning, especially Monday mornings. They can be decoupled right off the gate. So you can see decoupled for a short period of time within a session, and then they'll move into sync with each other, as we've seen plenty of times. Other times they may be decoupled for the entire session or the whole day, and those are really the conditions you don't want to be a part of. But just because they're decoupled for a little bit of time, it doesn't automatically mean it's low probability. It just means you may have to wait. Muhammad, we have a fair value gap and an IFEG. I mean, it's hard for me to know what we're really talking. I mean, you could be talking about this one, you could be talking about that, you could be talking about these. If you are, just post a chart. I mean, I may or may not look at it. Most of the time, if you guys are posting things about a certain chart, I mean, I guess I just don't see the reason for it. I'm the one here teaching and doing the trading, so just sit still and listen. Can you trade the NQ during? Yes. You got a lot of. I hate to be rude, but I am a harsh teacher when it comes to it. I'm very blunt. All of these questions that you ask, most of you, are questions you can answer either by yourself going through the ICT videos or just the information that's out there. I mean, there's so much information. Like, ask questions that are worthy to be asked. I hate to say that. I hate to sound super egotistical, but like, even for me when I was a student, being even with ICT, I only asked him questions that I knew that were worthy of his time, that made sense, there was something that were difficult. Otherwise, if it's something I can figure out myself, I'm going to do that myself. I mean, yeah, I would. Thank you. I appreciate it. I know some people are turned off by that, but as a student, I would want a mentor that was super blunt with me. He was harsh. I mean, RTH gap. Thank you. I mean, that's something that's important. That's like a reminder for myself because sometimes I forget with live streaming. Yeah, and really what I'm saying is like stop being lazy. You can do it. You know what you're doing. You just don't want to do the work to figure out the question. You'd rather ask somebody else. So the RTH gap in here, if we do drift off lower, we can utilize that as a drawn liquidity, confluence, right? You're right, my man. I mean, again, I feel bad doing it, but I mean, I tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear as a mentor. That's really what I tell people is tell you things that you don't really want to hear, but I have to tell you it. I believe there's some ads. What's going on, Emmanuel? I see you, brother. I'm sorry. I see you. Hope you're having a good day. So I'm going to keep an eye on dollar index and what it's doing. Maurice, yeah, again, people are going to ask about the RTH gap. I'm putting the liquidity void that's open on the RTH gap. I'm annotating the actual void that's on it. I could annotate the entire open, yes, but right now the only thing that is open on the RTH gap is the liquidity void. So it's that entire range, but what I'm particularly annotating is this. I'm annotating basically that opening in price because that's not yet been traded to. So if you see me annotate my RTH gaps, I'm doing that for a particular reason. I'm going to open this up for a second because I just need to see what really we're doing in here. I mean, to me, it seems pretty damn sloppy. I'm not trying to make a decision in here. So we've taken out sell side here, but we do have sell side liquidity that's resting underneath these lows. And we're inside of a bearish dealing range still. So for me to call a long in here or trust longs is a little bit more difficult. Because look at the dealing range that we're sitting in. From that high down to this low, we're inside of a premium, inside of a bearish dealing range. So for me to want to call longs, I would have to be very confident that we're shifting into a bullish market. But I don't know that yet. I don't know that from the things that I'm looking at higher time frames. I don't see that. So I have to sit still and wait and see, does it want to really displace higher? And if we start nearing the highs up here, then I could look for a potential long. But for now, I'm just sitting still, and if we drop off lower, then no harm, no foul. I'm just waiting for price. And we're just sitting inside of this Friday's new day opening gap. So that volume imbalance there, liquidity void actually, sitting inside of it. So if we dropped off lower in here, then that just can reconfirm to me what I'm already looking for. Oh, apparently there's paper trading maintenance today. I don't even know how is that even possible. It's just paper trading. Man, again with the questions, SMT, SMT. I mean, yes, if I see something, I'm gonna tell you guys. Like, and just sit still, just chill out. I don't know if you guys are asking that in terms of you want me to confirm that to you or not. SMT is just a confluence. It's just something that if you look at it, yes, it's nice. But nothing in here really screams to me I should be making decisions. I should be doing something. I can just tell from the chat, like, again, I hate to be rude. It's very antsy questions and answers in here. My viewer experience, for me, it's just sitting still. I'm not doing anything. A lot of it is just noise, what you're seeing and what you're viewing as an analyst. A lot of it's just noise sometimes. It's not always something's there. Yes, scroller. That's the new week, new day opening gap settings. So styles over here. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Chris. I mean, that's the reason ICT watches even other live streamers' chats. It's because they're, oh, it's up now, oh, it's down, and you counter whatever they're saying. I mean, it's a herd sheep mentality. Like everybody's gonna be like a parrot saying the same thing. Short, 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 long, long, long. It's like, all right, I'm gonna do the opposite of that. Oh, my bad. Again, this is my time zone, so you got to match it to whatever yours is. That's a good comment. Thank you. I mean, yeah, that's my mentality even with ICT was like, if I only had one question, I'm going to wait till I was like really stumped on something. I couldn't figure it out. 95% of the time, all your questions can be answered through something else. By another source, by ICT. I'm funny. I appreciate that. So what have we done? We've taken out buy-side liquidity inside of this 5-minute dealing range. So that's external buy side. This is external sell side. So we've taken out internal inside of this new day opening gap. There's this fair value gap there. Well, I'm not completely sold on anything. I'm not going to make a sharp decision. As if you just look at the 15-minute time frame, I mean, it's a little sloppy in here. Again, we're still inside of the 15-minute bearish dealing range, 30-minute, 1 hour. So I'm not going to just switch to longs because a 5-minute is moving higher. So dollar index is moving off higher. It's a good sign. Yes, there's bearish SMT here. We're moving away from the buy side after we've taken it, moving away from bearish PD arrays. So I just want to see if we can continue off lower. We're moving into the macro that happens before the silver bullet, which is good. So nothing's changed in terms of my bias or what we're looking at. I'd still be looking at overall lower prices. But I don't want to get caught inside of any type of consolidation, seek and destroy. And the reason I'm viewing it like that is, look at the 1 hour. We've been consolidating. If you view that as in terms of a daily time frame, if I just showed you this, I didn't tell you what the time frame was, and you viewed that in a daily time frame, you'd be like, oh yeah, we're consolidating. So anytime you're consolidating, even though you're having these micro movements, you have to be weary of that. You can't just make a sudden decision because it's dropped higher or moved lower. And I'm sure looking at the 1 minute time frame right now, a lot of you are viewing a lot of different opportunities. Trying to go long in here, trying to go short in there. You need to know when the 1 minute is not high probability. You need to know when to sit still and not look at it and not view those opportunities. Because to me right now, it means not to view it. I'm just, till I see something where I have a sudden displacement lower, that's easy for me. I can see we're moving out of this consolidation. Then I'll start viewing the 1 minute. But there's a lot of times where the 1 minute is not high probability, at least to me. Am I familiar with EHPDA? You're talking about IPDA? IPDA is the algorithm, or the name of the algorithm. I mean, that's awesome, man. I mean, again, that's whatever her model or her particular style. I mean, doesn't mean I'm going to go short. Doesn't mean it's wrong either. For the most part, Kish vlogs, yeah. If I see something outside of it, yeah. So if I do execute on an idea, I mean, it's not going to be on paper trading because apparently that is on maintenance today for some reason. I don't know. It depends on the new day opening gaps. I know it's not the answer you may be looking for, but if they're bigger in terms of range, and I can see that price is constantly respecting it, I may extend it out a few days. I mean, you can see this one from Friday, still respecting it. Typically, new day opening gaps, they can be extended out 2, maybe 3 days. New week opening gaps can be extended out for weeks and months. Yeah, I clicked on paper trading. It says that they're doing maintenance today. So, I mean, I'll just show you if I do take a trade. I'm not saying I am, but if I do, then I'll just show you the live account and where everything's at. Ozzy, I would have to shut down this entire app because I don't have a browser. I have the app, so I don't want to do that for the stream. So if I'm just looking at the 1 minute, low, high, lower low, higher high in here. What is this? Bullish breaker there. If we're truly bearish, then it would run through that. But nothing in here is telling me to do anything. I couldn't see an area where I would wanted to short personally. Even though that's my bias, I can't see anything in here. I'd rather elect to wait. If you're new here, just tuning in, I'd appreciate it if you liked the video, shared it, subscribe if you're new. So that's our inversion. Fair value gap there. To me, that's basically the last point of interest. If this thing was really going to move off lower, it's got to utilize this to move off lower. As we move again above this old high, then we'd be moving above the 15-minute. So 15-minute SIBI is what I meant to say. Really what I'm waiting for is time, and more or less if I can see a sudden displacement, something with enough evidence where I'd want to go short, then that's what I'd be waiting for. Julian, I mean, some people have different styles, and they, again, that's the problem with social media and viewing other traders. I mean, of course, you want to learn something from other people, but somebody may see something in here. I mean, I'm not the one to tell somebody. I personally, I don't. I mean, I could see something boiling up to where I could start, looking for that. I'm getting evidence that's starting to confirm my bias. So there's going to be points where you don't see anything that's confirming with your bias, and then you start seeing something where it's printing a little bit more evidence, and then you see really good evidence, and that's where you need to execute on the idea. So right now it's basically boiling. We're getting to a hot point to me where if we start to drop down lower in here, we print a fair value gap, then that's confirming to me my bias. It's confirming what I've already been anticipating the whole morning. So hopefully that makes sense. Remember, we have the RTH gap down here. So if we drop lower, that's what we can target. Thank you for all the likes. Yeah, appreciate it. Appreciate that, Chris. Yeah, sometimes my schedule doesn't really allow me to do that. So, I mean, there's so many gems in there. It's just people overlook them because it's a boring just recap video. But most of the time, all the questions you have, I do so many teachings and lectures inside of them, and it's because I label it daily log and it sounds boring. It's like, oh, I don't want to watch that. But if I told you how to figure out a high probability fair value gap, how to determine bias, how to do this, how to do that, and I labeled like that, everybody would watch it. But I do the same thing ICT does. Is I hide the gems within the hard stuff, the boring stuff, and he's always done that. So that's for the real students who really want to learn. I mean, thank you, Cloud. Mr. Ferrando, it's this indicator here. So we rejected off that inversion, very shorter block here. So far, it's really confirming to me like this. Okay, now this is something I'd like to see. Yeah, if somebody asks a question here and you guys have been around, it's a repeating question. I know it's a lot of new viewers, so I don't get mad at that. But if you guys want, feel free to answer it, because you guys know I answer that question probably 4 times in a session. Manny, that's excellent. That's exactly what you're supposed to be doing. That's good to hear. Very good to hear. So to me, if this thing was really to move off lower, I mean, I'd have to respect that last up close candle here. Now, does that mean that that's not my entry pattern? My entry pattern is a fair value gap, and I don't see that, so I can't go short off of it. How's ICT's live stream for those who are watching? I think the silent ones are pretty fun. Market is a bit decoupled. Yeah, it is a little bit. So that sell side in here is really what I'd be looking at, and if we can reach further than that, then that's great. So I'm going to scan through just like the 2, the 3, the 4, to see where things are forming. Yeah, the new week opening gap is also a pretty good draw on liquidity for us. So everything is still basically in alignment for what we were looking at from the weekly forecast from this morning. It's exactly what you need to be doing when it comes to bias and it comes to narrative. Is you come into the session with your idea, and then you wait for it to confirm it to you, and then you execute on the idea if it shows its hand to you. Yeah, right. I mean, it is it's a beautiful little time in there. You can see me. I mean, I'm not sitting here FOMOing or upset that price is moving towards where I thought it was. I mean, there's nothing here that would have probed me to go short particularly. But on you, that there might have been something that you would have liked. So again, it's all personal. ICT short and secret. Yeah, I'm sure he is. And again, I think after viewing last week, I think he did a lot of those executions on purpose. To be honest with you, I mean, look at all the drama that it's came about from it. He's a smart man. He knows what he's doing. Yep, so that macro in here, 9:50 my time to 10:10. I know a lot of people ask me to change it. I'm never going to change my time zone. I'm sorry. Just something else you're going to have to work with for me. I mean, it's my time zone. It's what I like. It's what I'm accustomed to. So, and again, we're all looking at the same chart at the same time. So, I mean, to me, it really makes not a huge difference. So there is a bullish SMT, just to make note, where NQ is dropped underneath its low, while ES and NQ or YM are not necessarily there yet. So I'm just curious to see if those are willing to get into sync with NQ, because right now NQ is the leader. So does ES and YM want to move into sync with them? That's it's a question to be had. I mean, in here, there's a small fair value gap in there, but I'm not a huge fan of that, to be quite honest with you. And even though we haven't taken out these lows in here, we've also taken out the sell side there. So anytime you take out sell side, you reach down into a discount, can allow price to move back into a short-term premium. And to me, it's too small of an inefficiency to work with. That's the one I'm referring to. So that's not something I'd want to go short off of, personally. I think somebody, what did you say? Turn in a psychology class for me? That's awesome. I'd love to see that. You'll have to see what today, how much juice it really wants to be squeezed. So if you look at this daily candle, we've opened here, setting the high of the day. Does it want to run beneath the open and expand lower? I mean, particularly I'm looking at the 5-minute and looking at, well, in 2 minutes if we close, if this forms a fair value gap, does it want to dig into that? Possibly. I would particularly want to see ES and YM start moving in sync with it. Because if they don't and they start moving off higher again, that's not a good sign for NQ. Mitch, yeah, there is. I have it annotated. We colored a little outside of it, but and the reason I'm not trying to scream for just a huge expansion today, lower prices, if you look at the 1 hour, the 4 hour, we're still inside of consolidation. We're still moving fairly sideways. So as I talked about earlier, I'm not trying to, be overzealous with the expansion of the day. You'll know when conditions are ripe to call for a large swing or expansion, but right now I don't see that. Nathan, I will not do that. I don't advise any trading. You just here to to give my insight on price. Institutional trading. That's awesome. I mean, most of the time, yeah, most of us are probably aligning with what he's already seeing if you spend enough time with him. So, what I'm trying to gather is I just don't know if we're going to really move off lower today. There's nothing in here that would tell me to go short right now. The fact that ES and YM are both moving off higher after NQ took its low, it's not a good sign. Slink Games, you're alright, brother. So, even though it didn't reach my objective, it's not something I'm particularly a fan of. Let's see how many new viewers after he got off. Yeah, 476. You guys are all phonies. The real ones were in here from the beginning of the live stream. I kid. If you can, though, if you're just tuning in, please make sure to like the video, subscribe. I appreciate it. A7, yeah, when they're layered like this, then particularly Monday and Tuesday are they're better days for me to at least look for a trade. And then if you're able to profit on a Monday or Tuesday, like a week like this week, then you just sit still and you do nothing the rest of the week. And you just let those 3 days pass and then you come back the next week. That's typically on these weeks what I'm looking for and I'm aiming for. If I can't get it, FOMC can actually be fairly clean sometimes. Same with NFP. If you wait about 30 minutes after the release. But for a newer student and ICT's protocol, I just wouldn't trade it. That's what I would advise for a newer student. Savvy, that's awesome. I appreciate it. Yeah, again, Ozzy, that's a good comment as I've made already. If you are getting super focused on like a 1 minute time frame, a sub 1 minute time frame, sometimes you forget that, well, we're inside of consolidation. I mean, you may not get these large expansion and these swings that you may be anticipating. So I'm just being weary of that and careful of it. The fact that we're not willing to drop lower in here to take out at least those relative equal lows with YM moving higher, ES moving higher, just makes me weary to do anything. My candle colors, it's just the third gray one, apparently 78, and then just black. Hey, that's awesome. Everybody's saying they didn't take a trade. What did he take? I'm sure he took a short. And that's all you need out of him one day. That's just taking that short-term scalp. Alex, I appreciate it. I think we're already at 180 likes. Sometimes it's a little delayed for the viewers, or maybe you can't see it. But on my end, I can see it. But seems like we were at the same viewership as last week, so seems on point with the viewers. So I don't know if anybody's really new in here. But if you are, I appreciate it. So we're digging back up into this inversion. I mean, a condition like this where we've taken out sell side, taken out buy side, taken out sell side, returning back to equilibrium of that range, those are seek and destroy / consolidational profiles. That's a signature of it, at least in my eyes and what I view. So I'd rather do nothing right now. And if it means I don't do anything today, then so be it. And just because we've taken out sell side doesn't mean I'm going to change my bias and go long. I mean, the overall narrative to me today, and tomorrow would be looking for lower prices overall. So just because on a 1 minute time frame you took out sell side liquidity doesn't mean you just start looking for longs. You need to match the what is the narrative here. If you're new here, well, today I'm particularly and tomorrow looking for lower prices that dig into the weekly, the daily time frame inefficiency here, and digging into the 4-hour, 1-hour sell side liquidity. Because what's the order flow on the 1 hour, the 4 hour? We're respecting bearish PDRAs. We're dropping lower, no longer respecting bullish. So I have to align myself with what that narrative is doing, and that narrative to me is bearish. So it's amazing. I mean, it's music to my ears, and that's what I wanted you all to learn from that. Because you don't always need the best entry. You don't always need to have the lowest entry or the highest, entry in a short. You can just wait for the second stage. You can wait for 75% of the move to be done, and you just snag the last 25%, and that's all you need. And you could do that a few times a week, and it's easy. Just low-hanging fruit. And particularly, I don't want to be longing this either, alongside the narrative standpoint, is dollar index is moving off higher. So if dollar is moving higher, I don't really want to long this. That's not on the agenda today. So most of you are coming into sessions with no agenda. You have no roadmap. You have no GPS. You just get in the driver's seat and you just press the gas. And most of the time you drive right into a brick wall. You need to know where you're going. You need to have a roadmap. You need to have a GPS. And what is that? That's narrative. That's where the draw on liquidity is on a higher time frame. And then you punch into your GPS where you're going. And then you wait to see if the entry forms. There's a lot of analogies you can draw to trading. I mean, whatever can help you figure this stuff out the most. But this is where just standing on one side, you draw that line in the sand. As I've talked about many times before, is you draw that line in the sand, you say, I'm not electing to change my bias. I'm electing to stand on this side, which is for me, I'm looking for shorts. If nothing confirms to me to go short, then I do nothing. It doesn't mean I'm going to go to the bullish side unless there's enough evidence where I'm proven wrong. Then of course I can switch, but right now there's not enough evidence, so I can't do that. MP, yep. I only trade the AMs. I mean, I will trade occasionally the PM session if AM is sloppy, but for the most part I trade the AM silver bullet. I'll trade the macros, whether that's before or at the end of silver bullet, but that's what I'm looking at. Hucklehead, I appreciate that. I mean, it's a reoccurring theme here is psychology. It's most of the time what I'm talking about. It's what you need to be telling yourself and walking yourself through. Because, I mean, nobody else is doing it. I don't have a coach. I don't have somebody telling me this stuff. It's myself. It's years of experience where I'm constantly telling myself these things, whether if I was on a live stream or not. I mean, that's a huge misconception, Tony, that, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily blame ICT or blame Twitter, but this is the point I came to is, yes, you can trade the silver bullet, you can trade a 1 minute time frame without looking at a narrative. But imagine if you were able to know the narrative. Imagine if you were able to have that extra knowledge and skill set. If you were to understand the narrative, imagine how easy it would be to go into a session and know, like, all right, cool, I know the narrative, like the back of my hand. I know where the higher time frame draw is, and you can also align it to intraday draw and liquidities. To me, most of you have been taught to just look at a particular time, which is fine, to look at it just a small window of time and just look at intraday draw and liquidity. But most of you are getting stopped out, probably a lot on a 1 minute time frame, because you're not paying attention to narrative. I mean, ICT has always taught me narrative. That was throughout the entire mentorship was narrative. Every single day he would sit down on a daily and a weekly time frame and tell me where his thoughts were. And that to me is the easiest point. Because if I know where the daily and the weekly are heading, then I can go down to a lower time frame and elect to only trade that one side and I sit still. And you're weeding out opportunities. As you get more advanced, as you get more skills, then you can counter trade the narrative. You can trade within the narrative. You can trade without the narrative. But as a newer student, I don't think that's even a good skill set to have, is trading without the narrative. It's the first thing you should learn. And it's not hard. It's easier than intraday. It takes days and weeks for narratives to play out. So you have a lot of time to decision make and see where things are turning. What's my Twitter handle? @_CJ Trades. Yeah, Hucklehead. I mean, I have about 15 post-it notes in front of me that all have tailored things to myself that I can repeat to myself. That if I, start feeling some type of emotion, I can read it out loud over and over again. Reminders. Yeah, Nico, I mean, a lot of you are getting sucked into this, and I don't know how many are using Twitter, but it is a absolute clown fest in there. And they're teaching you all the wrong things. And the only reason they're doing that is because it's clickbait, easy likes, easy followers to sell you their mentorship. So I talk about narrative, and I get the recurring theme that most people don't talk about it, which I don't know why. So in here, what am I seeing? I see nothing. You have to come to a realization as well, is there's not always something on the screen. Even though ICT may say it, you have to understand that he has 30 years of experience doing this. He may be able to go in here on a 5-second chart and trade this up and down because he's ICT. He knows what he's doing. But you can't compare yourself. You can't compare your chapter 1 to somebody's chapter 30. You're so far behind them, so you can't expect to keep up with them. You're just going to do yourself more damage. So you have to know where you're at, know where your skill set's at. Even me with 6 years of experience, 4 years of trading ICT, I know I can't be in here on a 5-second chart trying to trade this up and down. I'm most likely going to get it wrong. As soon as I left Twitter, my trading improved. Yeah. I mean, I'm on there because it's easier for you guys who are on YouTube to follow me there and keep updates and stuff. But if I could, I'd honestly delete the app. You don't check RTH pools? The RTH gap is right here. So we're moving away from that inversion. Again, this is me keeping on side. I drew that line in the sand, and I said I'm only looking for shorts. I'm not electing to go long in here. I bet a lot of people, when they saw that spike up, they're trying to chase it, chase it, chase it. But what's the narrative? The narrative is bearish, so I have to stick with that. It's fairly simple. It's just discipline. So you can look at ES now and YM. Printed another bearish SMT, and those are starting to move in sync with NQ, which is what I'd want to see if I want to see a follow through with the lower prices today. But do you see in here, when we had this move higher, ES and YM were not moving in sync, so it was telling me probably sit still and not do anything. Would I have shorted off the inversion? No. It's just an area that, okay, we can reverse off of it, and that's a good confluence. Mats, I believe I'm pronouncing your name right. I mean, it's just an extra confluence. You know that. You basically answered your own question. It's just a draw on liquidity. It's a confluence to you. If the sell side and RTH gap are together, then that's an extra higher confluence. So would I want to short off of these inefficiencies here? Possibly. I'd really need to have the confidence that we'd have a follow through and we wouldn't just be inside of consolidation. Which I'm so-so on that. Because again, we're still inside of consolidation, so for that entry, I would need to have some real good confidence that we're going to follow through and drop lower. Otherwise, it may stay range bound. Particularly, I don't 5 minutes. So you can see ES, YM, and NQ. They're all moving in sync now. So that's nice. That's what you want to see. Is there anything that would have probed me to go short? Nope, we didn't even get up that inefficiency yet. So it may just drop off lower from here. Even if we take out sell side, if there's enough juice to be squeezed, then I can continue to push lower today. Let me try this again. Nope. Oh. Does midnight open hold much weight for you? Not really. I mean, you can use it in terms of power of 3. Open, high, low, close. But in terms of me taking a trade off of just the midnight opening, that's not something it's not enough evidence, it's not enough confluence. That alone means nothing to me. So we're trading up into this. Again, I may kick myself for not wanting to take that, but I may wait for it to drop off lower. I don't use what'd you say? You don't use daily profiles? Yes, I do. I mean, to me, weekly profiles is really what I'm utilizing. Thank you guys for answering that question. I appreciate it. Again, why would I not? Again, this may play out, so I may kick myself in hindsight. The reason I'm just weary of that 1 minute is we're inside of consolidation, so I don't want to get stuck inside of it. So if I have to elect to wait for it to displace and drop beneath the sell side, that's fine. And if I'm looking, really what I'm looking at is the risk to reward. Because if I was to enter in this Sibian here, I mean, that's another part of your trade ideas. My stop loss would have to go above this fair value gap, but particularly it would have to go above that high. And all I can see right now is that sell side. So the risk to reward is skewed. That's the reason why I'm also not willing to take it. That's all I can see. Of course, it can move off lower, but in terms of the only thing I can see right now is that. So my stop loss is way too high in terms of risk to reward. And if we do that, then obviously it's not a good decision. Yeah, I mean, price just looks ugly to me. It's inside of consolidation. So You can't be so eager sometimes. You'll know when a condition looks ripe with experience. You'll know that, all right, this should expand higher or lower with ease. I appreciate that, Luke. I mean, that's sometimes a kryptonite to me. Sometimes I'm a little bit too patient at times, but I don't think it's a bad trait. I think being super patient pays off in the long run. I'd rather be too patient than too eager. Yeah, I mean, this may just be time distortion or consolidation. How do you learn narrative? That's a great question. Going out to your higher time frames, starting with a monthly, a weekly, and a daily, and you're constantly referring back to that. You're constantly seeing where price can draw to on those higher time frames, and then when you go into the lower time frames, you're aligning yourself with whatever you were seeing on the higher time frame. And if you don't think that you're good on it, I said this yesterday in the weekly forecast. Even if you're like, man, I'm pretty shit at this narrative thing. It's fine, man. Just stick with it. Keep practicing it. If you have to just lean on one idea and you're afraid of getting it wrong, it's fine. The only way you're going to get better at narrative is constantly working on it. Narrative is not this huge, ambiguous idea. It's very simple. You're looking at the monthly, the weekly, the daily. You're seeing where price is drawing to. Is it moving higher or is it moving lower? Where are the inefficiencies? Where's the liquidity? And you work with that. It's the same thing as if you're on a lower time frame, but you're just doing it on a higher time frame, and then you go into your lower time frames, you go into the session with time, and you see, all right, does this align with my narrative? If it does, then great. And you execute on the idea. And I mean, another way to learn narrative is to sit with somebody who's more experienced. For me, it was ICT, and he's pointing to the narrative every single day, and I could see it play out over weeks and months and years. And then I obviously just gained that experience from him, and I was able to apply it to my own charts. It's the same thing I'm trying to do with all of you, is teach you narrative through my own experience. You may not realize it in the moment of time that I'm teaching it, but then after time when you're on your own, you're going to be like, oh, I'm getting pretty good at this stuff. It's pretty easy. Like, yeah, that's just because you paid attention. That's just such a good example, and I'm very proud of myself, if I must say, that I didn't take that idea, because I could see that we're inside of consolidation. The risk reward is skewed. I don't know if we're going to expand lower a lot today, so I couldn't take the trade. Even though my model is there in terms of the entry and it aligns with my narrative, the conditions are not ripe. So it's a lot of weeding and decision making. Like, sometimes the opportunity is not there. It's not actually a valid point. So to me, this is all consolidation. And we're inside of a seek and destroy profile. We'll be taking out sell side, buy side, sell side, and then we're returning back to this EQ of this range in here. So anytime you're doing that, that's pretty good signature of seek and destroy consolidation. Taking out both sides, wiping the board, turning back to EQ of the range, and you keep referring back to it. Luke, with you, narrative, do you consider movement from? Yeah, I mean, that's everything's moving from external to internal. It's moving, the market's moving from inefficiencies to inefficiencies, from liquidity to liquidity. It's as simple as you can put it. And that's all you're doing on a daily and a weekly and a monthly time frame. I mean, especially with the weekly and a daily, you're utilizing power of 3. Again, huge sudden drop movement. It's typically what consolidation markets give you. So to me, I'm just going to be waiting. If we break underneath the sell side and we don't get a sharp reversal out of it, and I can see that it wants to really expand lower today, then I may pick off a short. If not, then I sit still and do nothing. If you look at just in terms of today, I mean, look at the opening range from today. I mean, haven't done much. If you're new here, please like the video. I'd appreciate it. It's the only thing I really ask. There's 537 of you in here and 200 likes. Yeah, ES had a decent sell-off. I mean, that's just the pros and cons to trading whatever asset class. I mean, for me, I'm not trying to switch asset classes a lot. I mean, I will trade ES at times if I see it appropriate, but for me to switch in and out, to me, again, I don't even have enough experience to really do that in mid-session. You saw me do it last week, but that's when the conditions are easy. I can see that ES is the sixth sister, and I can approach it. But to me, if you're newer, man, I would not be trying to switch back and forth between NQ and ES. I mean, they both have different styles to them and characteristics of them. I mean, ES moves a lot slower, NQ is a bit more wild, so I like to be in sync with one and feel the flow of it and be in flow with it. Because if I switch a lot, then I'm constantly moving out of it, and it can mess up my own flow. So sometimes you just have to elect to trade one, and that's it. It's part of discipline. Discipline is a bitch, but it also protects you. It rewards you when you follow it. It's not always sunshine and rainbows. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate it. Do I utilize standard deviations as price targets? At times, but I've discussed this before with standard deviations. I think they're just a confluence. I would rather look at the liquidity pools and where price is seeking rather than a standard deviation. Price is not moving off of standard deviations. It's, to me, it would be moving towards, to and from inefficiencies or liquidity. So if my standard deviation tool lines up with a liquidity pool, that's great, but it's not moving off of a standard deviation. It's just a projection, a confluence. People can look very smart on Twitter putting a bunch of standard deviations, but it means nothing to me, honestly. I could sit here and put a bunch of standard deviations. One would be here from this dealing range. I could be looking at negative 0.25, negative 0.5, negative 1, but to me, I'd be looking at the liquidity pool here. I'd be looking at the current new week opening gap. I'd be looking at the old new week opening gap and the sell side here. So those take more importance and precedence over the standard deviations. It's just a confluence to me. Any reason I didn't enter off of the higher fair value gap? I mean, if you're talking about the inversion, to me, it's just we're inside a consolidation. It's easy in hindsight to say, yeah, I could have entered off of that, but real time, there's no way I would have done that. And even these two in here, I discussed beforehand already. Chris, I appreciate that. Is there a huge difference? Yeah, I mean, NAS 100, that's indices. So you're going to be trading not on a futures contract. That's with the broker. You can only trade indices on like a Forex prop firm. In the U.S., we're not, through actually regulated broker, we're not allowed to trade indices. So that's kind of the huge thing that's going on with prop firms right now. Is that was a loophole, was you're able to trade indices through them in the U.S., but that's not technically legal. You shouldn't have been doing. We shouldn't have or be allowed to do that in terms of U.S. regulation. The only thing that's legal is futures in terms of trading indices. Do I use midnight opening gap? No, I do not. Or midnight open. I need like an AI bot where like it detects if I've answered a question already in the session, and it could just relay the the clip back to them. It's nothing against you, Kevin, but I already answered it today. I think like 2 or 3 times. Thank you, Oki. I guess you guys are my AI, but I don't want you focusing on the chat either. So, again, this is telling me to do nothing. No, you're fine, Kevin. Somebody can answer that question. I might take this indicator off, man. I might do it. I swear I get that question at least 20 times in a session. At least. Hidden, no. I mean, you're still residing inside of the U.S. I mean, if you're in your own country, wherever you're at, outside of the U.S., and it allows that, then yes. This just means to drop down into a 5-second chart. Nathan, I hope you're kidding. What about streaming on Twitch? You can make commands. I just think that YouTube, more people are on YouTube, so the reach is going to be better. Unfortunately, I don't think people are on Twitch. Yep, I only stick to one market. What up, DJ? DG. Why did I choose the 3-minute? That's the 1 minute. When you go down to a 1 minute time frame and you look at the RTH, extend this out to your right or left. Look at where price the void was. So we opened here. So if you put this on, that is the entire, that orange shaded is the entirety of the RTH gap. But what I'm annotating is where price is not yet traded into. So you can see from that closure to that low in here, yes, there's been a wick, but this, particularly even this, and now this, that entire area is a void. Price is not yet traded to it. So I'm utilizing that liquidity void right there. I'm utilizing that. So hopefully that clears up that question. I mean, if price stays like this, I may just go over a narrative because I get so many questions on it, which is fine. It's what I want to be asked, to be honest with you. But, because I don't see anything in here. And this is, to me, an A+ job. I did exactly what I was supposed to do, is sit still, not press a button, not try to chase this up or down. I mean, some people would be on a 5-second chart. Oh, I can go long here, I can go short here, I can go long. To me, it's just, I'm spending mental capital tokens. Why would I be doing that? Like, for these little runs in here, it's not worth it. I could just wait for good conditions, look for a 25 to 50 handle run that's easy to execute on, and that's it. On a 5-15-second chart, you're going for 10, 15 handle runs over and over and over again. I mean, chances of you getting that right as a newer student is very low. Very, very low. What up, WMG Trading? I'm sorry, brother. I know Brian has connected us, and I would love to do a live stream or connect with you. It's just, you know, my schedule's so hectic with everything. But I see you. I appreciate you. Do you ever take entries on different time frames? Yeah, I mean, depends. But particularly if I'm taking an entry, it's on a 1 minute. But that fair value gap could also, that's on a 1 minute. The 5 minute could also have it. So even a 15 minute. But most of the time, majority of the time, I'm taking it on a 1 minute. Yeah, we're just range bound. So do you want to be inside of these conditions? Do you want to be pushing a button? I don't. And we were able to see this and detect it basically at this point in time where we took up the sell side here and rallied back to EQ the range. At that point, it was telling me, be careful, be wary. It's like Medusa, a rattlesnake, shaking its tail at you. Don't do anything. Just be still. All right, brother. Yeah. Remind me if I don't, or even just shoot me a DM. Sometimes as you know, we all get busy. Well, I'd love to, man. Brian spoke highly of you, so I respect him very much. This live is like meditation. That's good to hear. I do want to go out to a higher time frame and do a teaching on narrative, but I just don't want something to kind of pop off and then me not be here for it. But I have my other monitors. I'll keep an eye. If something starts to move, then I'll annotate it. If you go to the weekly forecast from yesterday, I mean, I made some really good notes on what a good narrative is. And as far as NQ, I mean, if you've been following along with the daily logs, you can really get a clear understanding of what narrative is. I mean, it's sticking with one side on a weekly and monthly time frame, and you're looking for a draw in liquidity, and you're seeing where that is. So even from back here, I mean, I was annotating NQ all the way back in November, this whole run up. And the reason for that is if you look at the higher time frame standpoint, where are you at on a monthly time frame, on a weekly time frame? What is it respecting? Well, in here, we've had a displacement higher. Before I go into more, I think this is what most of you are getting caught up with. It's you're looking at such a wide variety. You're looking at this entire picture. The only thing you need to look at on a monthly, a weekly, a daily is probably the last 60 days of trading. So remember the IPDA look back, 20, 40, 60-day look back. You need to look at those look back periods. And in a higher time frame, you can look back, 6 months, maybe a year on a monthly. But just looking at this when we were trading, what was it respecting? It was respecting bullish PD arrays and continuously seeking higher prices. So when we dip down into this monthly fair value gap, you should be anticipating on lower time frames price to start to reverse and move higher. When you go down to a weekly time frame, you refine that same area where that monthly fair value gap was. You look at the same area on a weekly time frame and you see, all right, is there something in there that has the same characteristics of it? So if you look at the weekly time frame, low, high, lower low, then we have a higher high. So right where that monthly fair value gap was, there was a weekly bullish breaker. So when you start getting down into those areas at that particular moment in time, in October the 23rd, you should anticipate, all right, well, now we've reached a higher time frame reversal point. So I should start looking for signs that this may want to head higher. When we head higher here on this week and we close above this high, then my eye immediately draws to everything that's above me, because I know on the monthly and the weekly that we're starting to draw higher. So everything above me, I need to start looking at as targets, as inefficiencies, things for price to draw into. So that SIBI there, you look for price to draw into it. What's above price? All of these old highs. So during this whole run up, inside of these intraday sessions on November the 6th week, November the 13th week, all inside of those sessions, you're just looking for longs. You're looking for long models, and you're aligning yourself with that. Even in here, which was annotated in real time, if you go back throughout all my daily logs, we annotated all of this. If price wants to reach up into that buy side liquidity, and you have an area of inefficiency below us, then it should reach down into that. So as soon as we reach down into this area of inefficiency, then you're going to look for longs again. During that wick lower, whether that was on a Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, you could be going short. Even though we're bullish, you could be going short because you understand that this needs a retracement before going higher. A lot of narrative is working within it, because you can have retracements on higher time frames that's against the narrative, but you're working within it. I'm going to have to do a teaching on this at a later point, maybe in a video, I mean, I do it every single daily log, so I don't want to do it particularly on a live stream during a live session, but you need to be looking at your higher time frames. You need to understand what it's doing. It's as clear as cut as I could really make it. Yeah, Luca, that's the reason why I'm switching back. So I see price moving. Not that there's an entry in here, but I want to observe if we take out sell side and how we trade underneath it. If you want a good video on narrative, go to my weekly forecast yesterday. I had a pretty good session on it. So in hindsight, you could be like, man, I could have went short in here, but you don't know that it's going to respect that. You don't know that in real time. The condition of the profile that we're in, to me, I deem that a lower probability. So if you're grading a setup, if you're grading a particular setup, I would deem that like a D or an F. I wouldn't want to trade that. So I'm always grading my setups in my head. I'm like, all right, I'm giving this an A, I'm giving this a B, a C, based on the criteria and the characteristics that are surrounding it. So we're moving into the end of silver bullet macro. So we're right at that window of time. I wouldn't be surprised within this macro of time if we run the sell side in the next minute or two. But there's nothing in here for me to go short. I'm not going to go short in here just to grab 10 handles. There's no reason. So sometimes you just have to elect to sit on the sidelines and do nothing. And for most of you, that sucks. You don't want to do that. But discipline is a bitch. I will say that multiple times. All right, Alex, I will do my best. But I mean, again, all my daily logs describe narrative. And I don't put the clickbait title of how to find narrative in ICT in under 10 minutes. I mean, you're not going to learn narrative in one video. Like, you may get ideas on how to improve it, but sitting with somebody week after week, and even yourself, month after month, year after year, of doing the narrative, of marking it out, practicing it, that's the way you get better at it. I mean, there's no trainer video, there's no 10-minute video that can solve that issue. It's the same as like making a video over psychology. I mean, no 10-minute video is going to solve you from revenge trading or FOMOing. That's you doing the work. Yeah, Rummer, it's been an amazing growth over the last couple weeks here. I'm very, very grateful and appreciative of everybody who's supporting me and watching. It's been great. Which broker is best? I mean, it just depends on your style. I mean, right now I use Rhythmic. I've used Tradeovate in the past. I haven't used AMP. I haven't used Iron Beam or any of those, so I don't have an opinion on it. Does it look like a MSM? It looks like nothing to me. It looks like nothing. Sometimes you try to figure out so hard as a newer student, like, man, what is it doing? I have to be seeing something, or else that means I'm stupid. No, it just means nothing. It's doing nothing. All I can see is we're building a lot of sell side, and we're most likely going to trade to that at one point or another. But there's no entries in here that I'd particularly like, so it means to do nothing. Do I like Tradeovate? Yeah. The only reason I elected not to go with them on my my live account with the futures, my funded futures, is they just had a lot of connection issues and problems, so I just elected not to go with them this time. I mean, every broker has their own issues, so. Somebody asked, am I mewing? That's an odd question. I mean, man, you don't have to listen. nobody's holding you hostage to sit here and listen to me. Plenty of people appreciate what I'm talking about, so. And I'm not going to get emotionally upset about trolls and people that make comments in here. I mean, if you're a distraction and somebody who's going to be constantly saying things in here, then I'm just going to block you. Yeah, I mean, that's the one pro of Tradeovate is the TradingView connection, which I do miss, but it is what it is. Oh, geez almighty, man. Accidental. No, I don't. I'm a fat blob. LR? No. I mean, yes and no. Like, as a newer student, I can relate. I try to put myself back in your shoes a lot. But, I mean, in and of that question, to me, it tells me that it's just a lack of patience and you're wanting it more or less. It's a lot of things. It's probably enthusiasm. You want to learn things quickly, but the cold hard reality is nothing's going to teach you this quicker. There's nothing that's going to put you in a spot where you learn this quicker. It is what it is. It takes years of dedication and time. There's certain videos that, will build your foundation, like the 2022 model, the silver bullet video. But those just as themselves, those are just a foundation. You need to go into the charts and practice it, and that takes months and years and time. Maybe I'm missing this mewing joke. Maybe it's going over my head. Do all future platforms average price entries on multiple scalings? Could you clear up that question? I think I know what you're saying, but well, that gives I don't have TikTok because I think it is absolute disgrace. All of you, not all of you, all of at least my generation and the generation underneath me, their brains are fried when they wonder why they can't sit in a live stream for 5 minutes because their brains are fried. Yeah, LR. I mean, he did just make a video over where he should start. I think the 2022 model is a really good foundation, and then just building off of there. There's just so much content I can understand where you probably are lost. But start with 22, then move on to a couple other playlists that he has, and just work from there. There's not going to be one that's better than the other, in my opinion. I mean, the core content's fantastic. It's a lot to take in, and it's boring, but, I mean, the core content is just, it's like a dictionary. It's just the language in which ICT speaks, and if you can understand that, then obviously when you teach, it's going to be much easier for you. Julian, yeah. Maybe I should put Subway Surfers on my live stream so you guys can watch that and be distracted. Because if you can't sit through one live stream, I mean, you're never going to be successful. Wolf, I know you asked about me going to Euro. I mean, I don't trade Euro. I'm not going to pay attention to it. I'm not going to bring the audience attention to it. Like, just because a market is consolidating doesn't mean I got to move to a different asset class and I got to trade something. It just means, all right, I'm not taking a trade today. And that's it. I do nothing. So we're probably going to take out the sell side liquidity here. I feel absolutely nothing. I don't care. Even though it's what we're looking for, it means nothing to me. I'd rather preserve my mental capital and not take a trade in these conditions. You could have went short in here. came back to your entry again, dropped off, came back to your entry again, may come back to the entry again. And that's a lot of mental capital, a lot of time spending in it for a measly, I mean, it's 30 handles, it's not measly, but the conditions to me, it's not right. Forex Scout Sniper, yeah, I think that's it's really good. RMBVK, I really appreciate it, man. I really appreciate those comments. They do mean a lot to me. Let's see how many viewers are up in here. 522, fantastic. So it looks like we're holding steady at 500-ish now, which is good. I mean, I say that, but I mean, those are some very large numbers. It takes streamers years to build that, so I appreciate the community that ICD has built. So I just want to sit in here. I mean, we're at the end of Silver Bullet. We have 10 minutes left on the macro. I just want to see it trade underneath the sell side. I mean, after this, what I do is I go to the gym, I get off the charts, I detach away from price, I eat some lunch, and then I'll come back at the PM session, and I'll look at it. If there's something fruitful for me to take, especially like today where AM's been consolidating, then I can look at PM and make a decision there. So there's the sell side being traded underneath. You should feel nothing at all. You should feel happy that you sat out of the conditions and you just saw price trade into the point that we're looking for. I mean, in your journals, that's what you need to make note of. Is, well, I sat out of these conditions, I didn't spend mental capital, and I still got the draw on liquidity right. That's a huge pro. That's something you should be cheerleading yourself on. Yeah, I know, right? This little hour of time, or hour and a half, I mean, it goes so fast when I'm live streaming. Do I live stream the PM? No, I think it's a little much for me. I mean, it's a lot of energy to sit here and entertain and teach for 1 hour, as is. So if I'm going to trade, I'll just trade peacefully on my own during the PM. But that's sell side being taken. Whether or not we keep expanding lower today, that's a question to be had, and I would have to see what the rest of the day looks like. And if I come back to PM session and this thing completely dropped off lower, took out my targets, then that's it. I still feel nothing. The reason I say that is if you feel nothing, that means you're doing your job. You're following your rules and your discipline. You may be upset because you're like, man, my discipline, I followed my rules, but it still went to my targets. That's a good thing. You should feel happy about that. You just have this illusion in your head that you following your rules is a bad thing. It's a good thing. You're doing the right thing by following your rules. Even if it traded to your targets, but your entry wasn't there, then you followed your rules and your discipline. Because on another day, you're going to follow your rules and your discipline to a T, and it's going to work out perfectly for you, and you're going to be happy about that. Yeah, Wolf, I definitely think if you're a newer student, I mean, have a notepad next to you. I mean, I say a lot of gems in here that, if you're just listening, you're not going to retain it. You have to write it down and then refer back to it. Same with ICT. I mean, I have notebooks full of notes. Somebody asked, how many subscribers will it take you to acquire a private mentorship? That I don't know. I mean, again, if I'm going to do a private mentorship, which, I mean, I'm very blunt with all of you, I intend to do that. Because, A, it's taken me years to acquire this skill set, and B, obviously I'm giving out free knowledge, free trades, which is free money. But to me, if I'm going to start that, then I have to be able to prove to all of you that I can trade. And obviously I've been doing that. So if you can see the value in that, then of course I'm going to charge for it. I mean, it's just simply business. I don't have anything against mentorships. I have a bias against mentorships with people that don't prove that they can trade, that just simply post hindsight trades on Twitter, and they post a lot of things that aren't really proving themselves. I mean, the best way is to sit in a live market and show you that I can trade. And how many people are doing that? There's only one other person I can think of, maybe two other people, which is Tanya and Hydra. Those are the two other people on YouTube that are live streaming. And And I give big props to them because it takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of time to sit here on a live stream. But if you can't do that, then what? I don't see the point in paying for somebody's mentorship. I mean, it's as raw as it can get. Charge big money. I mean, no, I'm not even gonna. Again, I understand where even me as a newer trader, I'm not gonna charge an insane amount of money. I mean, I understand that some people can't pay for that on top of all the other bills that they have, but I mean, it'll be a reasonable price to where I think it's a mutual agreement. Tanya and who? His name's Hydra. Again, I don't really pay attention to the live streams. I just know that they do live stream. And if somebody's live streaming, then, man, that's big ups to them because it takes a lot of balls to do it. I'm sure I'm forgetting a few other live streams. I just, obviously I don't pay attention too much. Tanya is against ICT. No, no, she definitely trades ICT's concepts. Seasonal tendencies. Yeah, I mean, I don't even use seasonal tendencies, to be honest with you. Seasonal tendencies, IPDA look back, again, they're confluences, but the chart's already going to tell you, for the most part, same with SMT, it's already telling you where price is drawing to. But if you can use those as a confluence, as an extra help, then that's great. But I think for a newer student, that's a lot. That's a lot to put on your plate. So simplify it. Narrative, draw on liquidity, time, entry pattern. Keep it simple. It's easy. So as we're nearing the end of the macro of the silver bullet, I mean, that's it for me. I'm happy I stayed out of the conditions. I didn't do anything. I could have seen in my younger self where I would have taken many, many losses in these conditions. Exactly, Wazy. I mean, those who don't know, I mean, Wazy's very experienced. He's been trading these concepts for a long time. And if you can shed any light, man, feel free to chat away because, I mean, you're full of knowledge too. So I always recommend other people who've been here long that know what they're talking about. Like, spread your knowledge because there's a lot of people who are lost in this community. A lot of people, man. It's another motivation why I want to do this is because there's so many people who are lost. Just walking with blinders on, following the wrong people. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, I mean, that's basically going to wrap it up. I don't really see a point in sticking on here any longer. I mean, if I was to trade PM session today, I mean, if you guys are going to be by yourselves and you're able to trade it, just see if we do continue off lower in here and things are in confluence, the rest of the day I'm still sticking with what we started with from yesterday and today is I'm looking for lower prices. So I have to keep seeing supporting factors for lower prices. But if this thing stays inside a consolidation, it's not doing much, then I'm not going to touch it. I'm just going to turn off the charts and wait for tomorrow. So that's going to be it for today. I appreciate all the new people here, all the new subscribers. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter @_CJ Trades. Until tomorrow, good luck and good trading, everybody.